Another fun chapter of One Piece, but today, of course, we always start off with the cover page. And it's still Capone and his guys, they're still in Dressrosa. And we have a thing that's going around kissing everyone. The Marines are trying to corral this actual thing to figure out exactly what's going on, but we saw a lot of kisses on people in the last cover story. We assumed it was Lola or Chiffon, but actually it's a vacuum kissing devil. I guess they have to continue their pursuit. This cover page has been going on for a while, but I don't mind it. It's hilarious and it's interesting, so it's whatever. But let's get to the chapter. One Piece chapter 962. I suppose I should start this off by saying the pacing in this chapter was really fast. I assumed that the Oden flashback would be 5 to 10 chapters in which Oda was going to take his time and kind of pace things out. Recent reports came out today or yesterday that Oda is definitely trying to end the series in 5 years. I remember making a video about this a couple months back, talking about the series probably ending in 2025 or 2026. It was honestly just a regurgitation of the things that we said before, but this time it was from an editor saying that Oda probably is trying really hard to wrap up this story. And I mentioned that to say that in Wano, seemingly the pacing has been crazy at times, and with Oden's backstory, I really thought Oda would take his time with it, but no, we're really rushing. Well, not rushing because it doesn't feel rushed. The pacing has just quickened. We left off last chapter with Oden at that point acknowledging that he's 18 years old, of course 2 years before he becomes a daimyo. And within this chapter, we covered 2 years of things that happened. It was Oden pretty much being introduced to most of his retainers. The thing I was looking forward to the most was the Kuri invasion, or how Oden rallied Kuri together. And that was the beginning of the chapter with his discussion with Yasui saying that he was going to take a trip around the country. One thing I'm not sure about is why the room that Oden stayed in looked that way. I'm not sure if they're trying to say that Oden had insane sexcapades, or that's just how he lives life, flamboyantly. I think we see the embers of Orochi's eventual traitorous flame. Money has gone missing, and Orochi said that Oden did it. But Yasui, knowing Oden, he is skeptical because he says if Oden does something, he was going to do it more flamboyantly. Or actually, he would do it more spectacular. But Orochi says he saw him do it. He was scared to stop him. And this is the beginning of the story between Oden and Orochi. We're not sure whether it's jealousy or just Orochi was genuinely a bad dude. But at this point, we can't confirm, but I think Orochi is definitely lying. Yasui's suspicion pretty much confirms my suspicion of that as well. Again, having the knowledge of what transpires in the future with Orochi and Oden and all those things, you can't help but be skeptical about everything Orochi is doing. I think it's fitting. I think that's the point of what Oda is trying to show us here, that Orochi from the beginning was a sleazeball. One of the funniest parts of the chapter was after they left Hakumai. On their way to Kuri, they caused many incidents. And seeing Denjiro and Kinemon just so in awe of Oden, and Oden looking so disgusted at them, like, why are you following me? An amazing panel. Like, that face that Oden makes, top tier. One of the faces in One Piece that's going to be remembered forever. I think Oda's portrayal of just how subservient they were to Oden is perfect as well. Oden seems to be in a shrine, and Denjiro and Kinemon, they're keeping watch outside in the rain. The whole purpose of the flashback is to reinforce exactly how close the scabbards were to Oden. Seeing moments like this is definitely working. Oden's personality is also coming out a lot in these chapters, because at this point, he's taking on something that's not traditionally done in his country, but because his mind is already past Wano, he has such great aspirations to be outside of Wano, he's doing something culturally that they don't do in Wano, but sailors from the outside, based on what he's saying, they keep a log of their voyages. And so Oden started to record his exploits in a logbook. The first thing I thought of was, okay, where is Oden's logbook? And then immediately I go to Orochi because, of course, going back to the school and the kids saying that Orochi has a two-sword style and all these different things, I believe Orochi is the one who has Oden's logbook. I believe Orochi has been taking credit for Oden's exploits. So in a nutshell, the chapter is introducing us to most of his retainers. The big reveal in this chapter, which is a big reveal, but in the grand scheme of things, not that crazy, is that Izo and Kiku are brothers. Izo, of course, is the commander on Whitebeard's ship, and Kiku is, well, Kiku. It's been confirmed before that Kiku is actually a male, and now we're seeing that even from a young age, they were dressed up and they looked like young girls. Oden found them and fed them, and then of course they started following him. He talked about meeting Kanjuro, in which he was a demon that would steal hair. It doesn't matter if somebody was alive or dead, he would steal their hair. And Oden called him a weirdo. He said he was a weirdo that used the hair to make brushes so that he could sell them for a living. And he went for Oden's hair. Oden beat him up. And because of that, he started following Oden. They talked about a mountain bandit, and that's Raizo. And he described Raizo as a genius ninja who resigned from the Oniwabanchu because he was rejected by a kunoichi. We're assuming this kunoichi to be Shinobu. I think seeing Ashura Doji in his element is cool, because of course he was the king of Kuri, essentially. He was the strongest there, and that's how they established their hierarchy, based on strength. He of course got word that Oden was coming to Kuri, and he was excited because he would love to kill him, because of course he was a shogun's blood, and Ashura Doji said he hates privileged people with power the most. Something that I thought was interesting that they said about Oden was that he goes missing for days at a time. I wonder if this is going to play a role going forward, because the thing I'm thinking about is that is he sneaking away to go be with Toki? Because of course Toki, we know that's his wife. Did he meet somebody? That's why he's sneaking away without his scabbards. But then we see that he snuck away without his scabbards or without his retainers to go to Kuri. Oden talks about the stench of Kuri a lot, and that how once he opened the gates, it seemed like all the killing intent turned towards him. Obviously it didn't matter because Oden single-handedly defeated everyone in Kuri that was trying to go against him. And we saw at the end, it was an amazing panel of him on Ashura Doji, but he was commending him. So it was like Oden, even though he defeated Ashura Doji, he was saying, yo, this guy is really powerful, which is really cool. Initially, when I was reading this panel, I was thinking to myself, well, Ashura Doji and Inarashi a few chapters ago, they implied that Kinemon could be as strong as them back then, or even stronger. But based on how Oden looked, it seems like it was a high diff fight. However, Oden defeated every single person in Kuri. It wasn't just a 1v1. So that changes it. We can't use it as a barometer of strength. Or rather to compare Kinemon and Ashura Doji. Ashura Doji of course asks for death, and Oden doesn't do it because he decides to become king of the scumbags. Word gets back to Yasui and of course his dad Sukiyaki. And then Oden is declared the daimyo of Kuri. So this is 2 years of stuff compiled into like 6 pages, or rather 11 pages. It was great. I enjoyed everything that transpired, but man, it felt like I wanted more of the stories of each of these retainers. I like how they described Kuri, that it was so bad that once people got to Kuri, they didn't even pursue them because it was a different lawless area. However, if you got to Kuri and you weren't prepared, you were just delaying an inevitable death. So based on that characterization of Kuri, Oden doing what he did was no short feat, was no small feat. So him becoming the daimyo of Kuri only makes sense because now that's more territory for his dad. Out of all the scabbards based on introduction, well, in the current timeline, I'm talking about when we got introduced to him and he was still known as Shutenmaru. He seemed to be the one most troubled by everything. So I suppose seeing this sentimental moment between Ashura and Oden, it hit home because we know his reaction to everything once they got back to Wano. He was the one most hurt because he was somebody that stayed behind. He had to grow up in Wano being impoverished. And for him, he told Oden, now I have seen what peace looks like. So imagine seeing what peace looks like, then going back to a world without peace with Orochi and Kaido and everything they were doing. In some ways, it broke him. I do think how everything was reconciled was a bit too easy on Kinemon's and Kanjuro's and those guys' part, but I'm happy that they reconciled. Seeing just everything they went through with Oden and how close they actually were, I'm happy they reconciled and we got past that chapter. Another cool thing is that Oden was pulling the people up next to him. Oden, of course, now being a daimyo, he requires retainers and he doesn't want any just random people following him. So even though he has a band of ruffians with him, he said he'd rather them than anybody else. So he asked them, or he basically said that they can be his samurai, essentially his retainers. So put this in perspective. Kinemon, gangster, Ashura, outlaw, Izo and Kiku, orphans, Denjiro, orphan, Raizo, hermit, Kanjuro, thief. Now they're officials of Wano. That's what following Oden brought to them. So them and their tiers, it makes a lot of sense because they came from nothing, each of them. And now they're official retainers of a Wano daimyo. Just an incredible story, man. I expected the Rock stuff to be mentioned because the timeline was just kind of too perfect because it went back 41 years and the Rock stuff was 39 years ago. We went back 41 years when Oden was 18. So now 2 years later, he's daimyo. So that's 39 years ago. That's when the God's Valley incident happened. Now it's a 6-year time jump and 33 years from the present. And they said at this point, the survivors of the legendary Rox Pirates started recruiting, and they would eventually become the beacons of power for the next generation. I want to talk about Rox more, but towards the end of the chapter, we see Neku and Inu, they wash up on shore. Well, that's who I'm assuming these two are. People are assuming that they could be numbers, perhaps. I don't think so. I think it makes too much sense for it to be Neku and Inu, so that's what I'm going with. In regards to the Rox Pirates, so 6 years later, after the God's Valley incident, they are the survivors of the Rox Pirates. We see Whitebeard, Kaido, Big Mom, and Shiki, and there's another figure there. People are saying it's the Lurking Legend or Captain John. Maybe it's somebody that wasn't even mentioned. But them actually being beacons of power makes a lot of sense. We know Shiki went on to do. Big Mom, Kaido, current Yonko. Whitebeard, the strongest man in the world, was a former Yonko. This other person, we don't know exactly who it is. The speculation was that it could be Dragon. At that point, Dragon was really young. I don't think it could be Dragon there. Definitely wouldn't make sense for it to be Roger. Roger wasn't a part of Rox. So this is an interesting mystery that Oda left, of course on purpose, for us to think about. I mean, that's pretty much it. I think this chapter was really, really good. Really enjoyed it. Pacing was a bit faster than I expected or anticipated, but still a damn good chapter. Leave your thoughts below on this random guy though. Who do you think it is? Is this the Lurking Legend? But for now, we gotta wait and see. Before I end this though, I think this is perfect in regards to what happens to Oden, because they're saying the Rox Pirates, or the survivors of the Rox Pirates, have started recruiting, because I think Whitebeard at this point goes to Wano. And we know Izo is a commander of Whitebeard, so I think this is when Izo goes to Whitebeard. And maybe Oden doesn't go initially, but I think Oden actually goes because he's been wanting to leave Wano for a while. Already the daimyo. I'm sure his retainers wouldn't be happy because essentially their power is tied to him. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. I think the next chapter will be the best chapter of the flashback. Personally, that's what I think, because I think we see Whitebeard in Wano. I definitely can't wait for that. But guys, again, leave your thoughts below. Let me know what you think. Like the video if you did. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more content like this. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.